Just taking a moment to come on early, um, just to make sure things are set up, just making sure things are set up. I want to come on a little early, but I'm not going to start. I just want to give you time to find me, and so we can get ready for this session. Praise God. I look forward to Monday evenings where I have a chance to do my For Real podcast, where I'm able to share uh, what's really on my heart sometimes. And it brings about healing. It really, really does. It really brings about healing. And I just want to give opportunity for us to come on and make sure I'm on all my channels. So I'm just checking it out while I'm waiting for 8 o'clock, making sure my sound is on. And I do appreciate your patience with me. I do my best to I do my best to be effective. Sometimes I have challenges, and so I'm not ashamed to admit that I don't always do it perfectly, but I do try. I do try. How about that? And so some things in the social media platforms, sometimes they work without an incident, and other times they work with challenges. So I need to check my channels here and see why it's doing what it's doing out here on. Um, see if I can open my channels. One of them seems to be having a little issue. Um, it- it's coming on and it's going off, so I'm not sure. Okay, maybe it's that one. So we'll see if it comes on and stay on. This is why I try to come on early sometimes, because one of the stations that I try to get on sometimes has some complications. So I'm hoping I got it resolved now so that I'm not going off and on when you all are listening. I do appreciate your support. Um, God uses all of us, and He is a merciful God, and He wants us to be our best at things. So we can't wait all the time and just do things. I try to do things um, in a way that God would be pleased. I try to make sure that I'm doing my part, and I hope that you are doing your part. Amen. Glory, glory to God. All right. Everyone on, good evening, Monica. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'm going to get started here in just a minute. I try to give people opportunity to get on before I get too far in it. So I appreciate you tonight. Thanks for joining me. Feel free to chat with me. I'm typing, so I'm not sad tonight. I'm not sad tonight, Monica. I'm better. I'm better than I was last week. Last week I was very vulnerable. It came upon me, and so I'm not gonna be too sad tonight. I think I'm in a better place. Thank God. But I want to tell you a little about AK Ministries. AK Ministries is a ministry I have, and the motto is cultivating gems to let the youth shine through. And my vision is to be an inspiration to encourage others to live purposefully. to allow life's experience to strengthen your soul and to cultivate you into the gem that God intends you to be. And this is why I deal with a lot of lessons that are from the soul. That's why it's reflections from the soul. Because I like to talk about things that people brush under the rug because we try to get healed and we want to be healed completely. So that means we have to be truthful to number one, the person in the mirror, to ourselves about things that we're going through. And that's what I try to do in this ministry so that through every circumstance you go through, that you can still shine bright. And my mission is to foster internal healing from life's most challenging experiences, to strengthen the soul and encourage wholeness through acceptance and forgiveness. AK Ministries empowers individuals to number one, recognize the origin of their disappointment and pain. If you don't get to the root of it, you won't get completely healed from it, right? So we try to get in there and recognize where these things that we're dealing with, where did they really come from? And we can get to that, we can get to a place of healing and accept ownership of personal triggers and to accept the complete healing from Jesus Christ. Digging deep within your soul to let that gem inside of you shine bright. And that is what AK Ministry strives to do. And this is my little public ministry that is dear to my heart. And I just love to see people overcome things that were meant to throw them, and just understand that we all go through things, and they're not to take our life, so to speak, away from us. It is still so that we can get through it and live life to its fullness, right? So thank you so much, Monica, for the compliments. Thank you so much. Um, okay, so tonight, this morning I woke up and I thought, I had one thing planned, but uh, I had another thought, something that I wanted to really talk about, and so I decided that I would switch and come and talk about this. Who's responsible for my emotional baggage, right? Who's responsible for my baggage, right? So who's responsible for supporting me? So I felt a little something different today, and I try to go with the heart. I don't really sit down and write stuff script by script. I just really, really try to speak from the heart. So I hope this is something that you can accept tonight. So this is not a polished lesson by any means tonight. I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a person that have all the answers, but I can speak through experiences and things that I've gone through, right? And so I am definitely tonight, again, coming from my heart, where I always try to come from. So lately, like I said, and I'm not sad tonight. But if you didn't watch last week, you might want to watch it a little bit and see you. I know that others prayed for me because of what I was going through. But anyway, but lately I do find myself off and on feeling emotional. But I don't know about you, but I've been losing so many precious people in my life in the last 6 months. So sometimes it's just hard to get a grip on it. And as much as you're pushing forward and you're understanding what life is all about, sometimes you got to be honest about you're human and you deal with stuff, right? And so I can encourage you, you can encourage me, but we do go through stuff, and so I don't want to color that by any means, right? So then I was like, okay, I'm having all these emotional things. I'm going up and I'm going down. I'm like, God, I got to get myself together, right? And so um sometimes you look at people who are around you and you're like, do they see? Can they see me? Can they see me? Do they see that I'm having a little struggle here? Do they know? Can they tell? Is it showing on my face? Is it showing on my actions? Those who are close to you think they're supposed to just automatically know that you're going through some kind of a personal crisis, and so that's kind of what I want to touch on tonight. So is it really their responsibility? Even though they're around you and you know that this is your corner, this is your circle, is it really their responsibility? And that's what, let's talk about this tonight when you think about that. So we all have our way of wanting to feel seen, right? And, no one wants to feel invisible. In my early life, I felt like I was invisible. I think I talked about this maybe a couple of years ago. I just felt like nobody ever saw me enough to see that I was struggling. I just felt like if I said something that nobody really paid attention to me. So I had these times in my life when I was younger, I felt like I was just invisible, uh, that people really just didn't see me. They didn't hear me. And so you can kind of just go through life feeling somewhat like maybe like a zombie, right? It's like anybody really care about me. And so that's just thoughts that we go through in our minds sometimes. But I thank God that I've come past that. But um, so just think about that. So we all have our tendencies, but the truth is we all want to feel seen, and there are times that we want to feel like we're actually heard. We matter. I matter. Don't you matter? Yeah, you matter. Say it. I matter. And so sometimes people again around us are the ones that we expecting them to respond to us a certain way, but we're going to talk about why they don't respond to us the way that we feel like they should respond to us. Because sometimes we don't need someone to just come in and just fix the problem. Sometimes we just want people to ask us, "Are you okay? Are you really okay?" And like, I want to know if you can at least sense that something's going on with me. Are you paying enough attention to me like I pay attention to others, right? To see that, she ain't quite right today. So are you really okay? So that's sometimes what we want people to say, are you really okay? And so what that speaks to us is that, okay, they may see or may feel that something's going on with me, right? So sometimes you just want to somebody to just say that. And then even though sometimes they do and we don't expect it, we want it but we don't expect it, and then how do you respond? Yeah, I'm okay. We ain't being truthful. We want somebody to see us, right? And then when somebody sees us and they say, are you really okay? Yeah, I'm fine. No, that was your opportunity. People can't read our minds. We're going to learn tonight that, what? We got to learn how to communicate. You know, we have to learn how to let others know when, I need a little something different, right? So um, sometimes people just don't know. They're just used to us doing what we do and going about our days as we usually go about. And so they don't know. And so this is where sometimes we have to extend grace to other people when we expect them to know that something's going on with us. And sometimes we have to extend grace because sometimes, you know what, they just don't know. Why don't they know? Because we don't express what we're going through. So it is really not their fault because you are not expressing what you're going through. You're not telling someone, I need this or I need that. You just think people automatically sometimes supposed to know because like this person is my ace, this is my corner, this is my boo, this is my girl. But they ought to know when something's not right, not necessarily because you still functioning, you still smiling, you still doing what you're doing. And so they don't see the difference. They don't know that there's a crisis going on inside. So we have to extend grace to other people that we expect to know how we feeling, what we going through. But if you've been presenting yourself like the strong one, you've been presenting yourself like the one that's always encouraging, always helping, always smiling, sometimes people just don't know that we need them in this moment to support us, you know. And so when they don't, it's not that they don't care. We're going to talk about why they don't support us. Is it really their responsibility? Is it really their responsibility? Just think about that. I'm going to ask you a question. Should people who love us care? That's simple, right? Absolutely. We expect people that love us to care. Should they notice that something's a little, maybe she's a little tired or whatever, should they notice that? Sometimes perhaps, right? Maybe. Okay. What about, can we really expect people to read our hearts? Can do you think someone can really just look at you and read what's on your heart? No, probably not, right? Nah. So there's a difference between our expectations and our communication. And this is where it breaks down. How do you communicate what you need and what you're feeling to someone that you think is supposed to know, but they can't read your heart? They may look at your actions or your reactions and say, something's a little different. But sometimes we need to learn how to communicate what's really going on inside of us. Sometimes we have to admit the fact that, you know what, I need some help. Sometimes we just need to admit that. Sometimes being independent, you know, sometimes can feel a little uncomfortable because we don't know how to express things. So I'm going to share something I did yesterday. Yesterday I was probably physically tired because I had a long weekend. I went out of town. And so one thing, I was physically tired. Another thing, I'm still kind of dealing with some issues that I talked about last week, right? Um, so I'm kind of dealing with that. And so while I was away, everything was fine. And it seemed like when I got back home, it was like it was waiting for me. That emotional stuff that I left when I went out of town, it was like when I came back, you know, like it was waiting for me to pick it up again. And so I went about my day. I went to church, on the way home from church, I wasn't really ready to go back home. So my husband was driving. I said, "Don't you want to take me to breakfast?" He didn't answer me, but he just proceeded to just go to the house. So I said, well, I guess that means no, right? And here I'm about to go into my pity party. So as the day went on, I'm sitting here and I'm talking, and people responding to me the way they always do and saying the things they usually say as a responses, conversations. And I was to a place where I didn't want to hear the same thing. Now, how do the people that I'm communicating with know that? How do they know that I didn't like the responses that I was receiving? But what it did, it made me agitated. I don't know if anybody can relate to this, because what was really going on, I'm going to tell you that I was going through something emotionally. And I felt like that those who were around me should have known that I was going through an emotional moment, and they didn't. So I got a little frustrated. So I said to my husband, I said, okay, you don't know how to respond uh, to my emotional needs right now. Now, I've never really admitted this out loud, right? But I recognized what was happening. I said, you don't know how to respond to what I need right now emotionally. And it wasn't his fault, and he wasn't responding to me bad ways, but I needed different types of responses to the conversation that we were having. Not the same old answers that I'm used to getting. I needed something else. But how was I supposed to communicate that? How was the person that I was talking to supposed to know that I needed something different? You know, I need to hear something different this time. But they have no clue because I did not say that. So I said, listen, you can't um, respond to my emotional needs right now because you don't know how uh, or what I need at this moment. Not shooting them down. I'm just saying I needed someone to help support my emotional issue at that moment. And Sometimes people you're talking to around you, you have to understand that they don't know because you haven't communicated. And some people just don't have the capacity to really know how to respond to someone that's going through an emotional moment. Hey, Nikki. So I said, listen, you can't respond to my emotional need at this moment. So what I need you to do is let's just be silent for about 30 minutes. I said, I need about 30 minutes because I'm realizing that I need something. And really, I didn't know how to communicate it to them other than saying, I'm not getting what I need from you right now. And what I was getting was really making it worse. So I said, listen, let's please just give me 30 minutes. And it wasn't in an unkind way. So we have to be careful how we deliver things when we're trying to tell people what we need and they really have no clue. But I learned something just by communicating that. Give me 30 minutes. I need to regroup, right? And it was a basic conversation. It wasn't something that was going to be an argument. It was just a discussion about something. I don't even know what it was about, but the idea is what the way the conversation was going was not working for me at the moment. So instead of keep doing it and staying in it and getting frustrated, I asked for a bow out. Let me bow out for 30 minutes. Just give me silence for 30 minutes because I realized that the people around me didn't really know what I needed. And I think it was around dinner time and and here it is. And we didn't cook and I was trying to make hints. And we make hints. And it is nobody's fault but ours because we're not having direct communication. So I'm hinting that I wanted to go out to eat. I had already tried it for breakfast, right? That didn't work. So now it's dinner time. And this is what it was. Now I remember he said, I'm going to go to Popeyes and get some chicken. I said, I don't want chicken. Then he said, well, I'll go pick you up some wings. I said, I just said I didn't want chicken. And so he's looking at me. He was baffled. He was just really confused. But what do you want? I don't know, but I know I don't want chicken. Now this sounds silly, but it depends on what headspace you in, right? Um, so I said, well, I want a steak with some grilled onions and. And then he said, well, I'm not going out. I'm not going to sit down in no restaurant. And I'm thinking, you didn't catch my clue when I wanted to go to breakfast. Now you dissing me for not wanting to take me to dinner. But he did say, you can call and order it and pick it up. He said, I just don't want to sit down in a restaurant. Well, that was opposite of what I felt I needed at the moment. I'm just saying I needed an escape, right? I need to get out. But I didn't communicate it that way, other than just, and I didn't want to get angry because it was on me. Like, okay, so who's responsible for what I'm feeling if I can't articulate it the way that I should, so that the person is getting the direct message from me and not just because I'm just saying something, right? And understanding that I'm asking for to go out because there's something deeper here, right? So I bowed out and I said, just give me some time. I need about 30 minutes. And so and as we said, give the other person some grace, right? So he did. He got quiet for 30 minutes or whatever. I didn't, we just had that little silent moment there. And I needed that because I had to say, is it really his responsibility to meet my emotional needs in that moment when it was so scattered and it wasn't direct? I did not say I really just need to get out, and if you don't mind, da 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 da. I didn't say it like that. I was almost making it. I could have made it an argument, you know, but I didn't. But so what he did, he proceeded to go to Popeyes and bring some chicken home, and I ended up eating it anyway because that's all I had to eat. But what I'm saying is sometimes people try to meet us where we are. And sometimes they try to give us what we need. And sometimes that person is just clueless as to what we need in that moment. So when I say, then what is our responsibility in that? We expecting people, to understand what we need. So we have to be able to admit when you need help. Hey, I need help. This is where I am. This is what I'm feeling. And it depends on how you present that. You can get that person's attention in such a way that they understand that you really need this, whether they feel like doing it or not, but because of who that person might be in your life, right? And they want to make sure you're okay. If they understood it, they would probably sacrifice it more. So when I thought about it later, I said I probably could have presented that a different way, but I didn't, right? So he might have thought that I was just trying to be difficult, but inside I'm screaming like I just want to get out of here and do something else. And I could have just taken myself, but that's not what I wanted, at the time. So then I said, well, who's really responsible for what I'm going through? They can't see what's going on in my heart. They can't see what's going on in my mind, right? But if you want to have healthy relationships, right? Any relationships, friendships, whatever, you have to be really honest. And, we can't blame other people for not having the capacity to give us what we need, especially when we don't know how to communicate that. And am I making sense to somebody? You know, we want to blame others for not helping us get out of this emotional spot that we're in, but we're not giving them the information that they need to help us. It doesn't just automatically happen. They don't just automatically read the signs. We have to get to a place where we can just admit this, right? So sometimes supporting us begins with allowing ourselves to be known. Okay, strong person, you got to let somebody in that, you know what, I need some help right now. I need to go walk around in the store, but I need a companionship or company with me. I don't want to do this alone. I want somebody with me. But I feel like this is what I need to do. Can you meet me here? At this point where I am. So being direct. Learning how to communicate what we need, and then not getting upset with people because they can't read our minds and they can't read our heart, you know, are they responsible for that? So, what do you do though when people don't respond, even when you tried everything that you know to do? Like last night, I had to just give up. I realized I wasn't going to be taking out to dinner. I wasn't going to be taking out to breakfast, and I was just going to have to deal, right? Or I could have taken myself. So, what do you do when people just still don't respond? You know, and sometimes it can feel painful, especially when it comes from people that you don't expect to come from, because you're thinking that I'm doing everything to let this person know that I'm having some emotional issues right now, and they don't respond, right? Even if you've been direct, that can be very painful, and that could also bring about some form of rejection. So how do we make sure that we keep ourselves in a healthy space? You know, how can we make sure that we keep ourselves in a healthy space when this is going on? You know, sometimes people just don't show up the way that we hope they would. You know, is it really their fault, baby? They just don't feel like it. And so, what do we do with that? What do we do with that? Perhaps we're not communicating it the way that we should, right? And so, I could have said things a lot different. The outcome may have been different, but I had to mull through that moment, right? And there were options that were presented to me, but I didn't want those options. I wanted what I wanted at the moment, but I didn't communicate is why I need to. I just feel like I need to get out of. I got something emotional going on, and I think I would feel better if we did this. If we went out. Even if we just picked up something and sat at the park or whatever. But I didn't communicate it that way, right? So sometimes when people don't respond to us the way that we hope, maybe we have to check and make sure that we're communicating what we need properly, right? So that people don't have to guess what we need but you can't do it with attitude. You still got to do it right. You still got to do it without attitude, but you can do it in a way that people will respond to you. You know, there's a way that you can be upfront with that so that you do have their attention, but you're not doing it in a negative way, right? So sometimes, like I said, it can be painful. Sometimes it can hurt, you know. But it's okay to even admit that. Now, I could probably go back tonight and say, you know, yesterday I really needed, uh, I just really needed you to take me out. I needed some emotional support, you know, and it kind of hurt me that, you know, that you didn't pick up on that. But it's not really his fault he didn't pick up on it. I didn't express everything that I needed and why I needed it in that moment, you know. So we can't do the blame game because we're really responsible. He said, well, you can go. Yeah, I could have, but that's not what I wanted, right? And so we have to be a little better about letting people know what we really need and not expecting them to just try to read it from our actions, right? We got to be direct and we got to say what we need and got to say it in the right attitude, right? So, but I want you to know that regardless to whether they ever respond to you, your emotional needs, the way that you feel they should or the way that you hope they should, that does not determine your value just because that response is not what you expected. I want you to hear me that that does not determine your value at all. You know, some people, like I said, just don't have the capacity. There are some people that don't know how to be empathetic. Some people just don't know. They just don't have that skill, right? And so we have to be mindful of those things. So sometimes God will support us through people. You know, sometimes like we were trying, like I'm uh, analogy I use that. Sometimes we look to people because God sometimes uses people to support us. And then there are other times that God just comfort us directly. You know, ultimately He'll just come in and give us what we need and comfort us directly. You know, because we got to remember that people are not perfect. You know, and that most people do the best that they can, but we got to remember that we are imperfectly imperfect people. You know, by design, and so we don't get everything the first time. Some things are learned through situations. You know, maybe the next time um, the response might be different because maybe God would have worked on that other person's heart and allowed them to learn how to be empathetic to the needs of others. Sometimes people can't see your needs because they've never gone through what you've gone through, so they don't really know how to support you in certain things when you're feeling that. You know, if someone never lost anyone close to them or never been in a divorce situation or lost a child or whatever, something traumatic in your life, everyone's not experienced that. And they don't always know how to support someone else that has. So that's why sometimes God will come in and He'll comfort you directly. You know, sometimes He'll send someone to you, and it could be someone you know, it could be someone that you don't know. But you have to keep yourself in a way that however God chooses to comfort you, He knows you. He's the one that made you. We have to be in a position to accept it, regardless to sometimes who it can come through a child. It can come through the love of an animal. You know what I mean? So just be able to accept the comfort that God sends, however He chooses to send it, you know. And so sometimes He'll come in and just strengthen us before anyone else even realizes that you're struggling. Sometimes He'll just go ahead and take care of it because there's something that you may need to do and you got to get through this moment, you know. And so God is the all wise God. He'll know that you're sitting there dealing with something and He'll just come right in and strengthen you, you know, so that you can do whatever it is that you need to do and that you won't fall into that mode of being in, you heard of an emotional wreck. Just an emotional wreck, just everything just throwing you because something's going on inside, right? And so everything now is an issue, but it's because you're trying to deal with something that's a larger issue, you know. And so we have to be honest with ourselves and what these things might be. So, all right. So Isaiah 41:10 says this, and this was encouraging to me. It says, "Fear not, for I am with you." God says this, "I will strengthen you," and He says, "I will help you." And so that spoke volumes to me. And I've been kind of thinking about that scripture all day long, you know. And like I said, I had a better day. It was a great day compared to where I've been in the last 7 days. Fear not, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and I will help you. Is that confident to know from God, our Father? Yes, it is. And He'll come in real quick when He need to for us. So God's support doesn't depend on whether people recognize our need or not, because He always sees it. And He's going to send us what we need, but we have to learn how to voice what we need and not get angry and upset when people don't see us the way that we think that they should. Just tell them. And sometimes it'll make them stop and look and pay more attention to what's going on with you in that moment, you know. But we have to learn. It is really not not their responsibility. You know, they can't always see it on your face unless you balling and balled up in a on the couch or fetal position, you know, like you really just gone out. Then yeah, you know. But if you out doing what you usually do and things like that, you know, you're out still supporting, you're working, you're smiling, you're doing that. They can't see what's the struggle is going on in your heart. You know, they can't see that, you know. So we have to help people that care for us and know how to respond to us sometimes, you know. Yep. So I'm asking questions. I'm watching the screen tonight and see who can answer and respond to me. Um, have I expected people to know what I've never shared? And somebody answered me tonight. Do you expect people to know what you never shared? Anybody? Anyone expected someone else to know what you never shared? You think they're supposed to look at you and know some things. How they supposed to know it if you don't share it? You know. What about am I giving others the opportunity to support me? Sometimes we put these walls up and we want to stay so strong and we don't want to let anybody in and all that stuff. And you get in the car and you bawling, but people sometimes try to support you, right? And do you give them the opportunity to support you? That's the thing. It's this my problem. I'm gonna carry this, but you dying on the inside. You emotionally struggling on the inside. You know, because you're not giving someone the opportunity to support you, right? Okay, what about this one? Uh, who do I have in my life that is truly safe? And you don't really have to give me a name, but I just want you to think about that. Or should I say, do you have someone in your life that you really feel safe, truly safe with? I'll put it there. That's an easier answer. Do you have someone in your life that makes you feel truly safe? This is a person that you can go to for anything. You can tell them anything, and you won't feel judged by them. You'll feel heard by them, you know. And it's important to have someone, at least one person. I got an arc, you know. People say you got a circle of friends, right? I got an arc of friends. Didn't quite make the circle because I only really have a few people that are really, I feel that are really close to me, and that's probably my fault. But you know, life happens. You get hurt, right? And you know, and so people do things or say things, um, and so you don't feel truly safe with them anymore because of maybe they violated some trust or something down the road. And they can still be in your associate circle, but they may not be in that close circle, So that might not be someone you feel truly safe with. And do you know the kind of support that you really need? Do you know the kind of support that you actually need? Sometimes that's the problem, because when your emotions are all over the place, sometimes it's hard for you to just pinpoint where your real need is. Or maybe we're in denial of where that real need is. I'm going to keep this right here. You know, it's what happened a lot when people have been molested and things like that. I'm going to keep it right here. You know, I'm going to keep it right here. But what's going on now with this new generation, they're saying, say something. They're saying what? Say something. That generation that was quiet, that generation is gone. Those who were being quiet are those who came from that arena saying, I got to keep this right here. But these new folks coming out, these I don't even know, Gen Zs or whatever, whoever came after them, I can't even keep up. They ain't saying, they like, open your mouth and say something. Open your mouth and ask questions. Say something. Call them to the carpet. And so things are evolving, things are changing now. So people not holding on that emotional stuff that maybe perhaps me or my mom them held on to. These new kids are saying, you violated me and I'm gonna tell the world. Everybody gonna know what you did to me. And I'm gonna get off now. I'm gonna close, but I just want to know that um, I just want you to know that God sees us, right? And He wants us healed. And just know that sometimes He sends people to help us, and we can just close ourselves off. And so God is trying to meet you where you are emotionally, but this is my problem. No, it's not. God is there. Like I say, sometimes He'll just meet it and comfort you Himself. Sometimes He'll send someone else to do it, right? Sometimes He'll use other people to help us. And so we can't reject that. So, but I don't know if you ever felt like, the things that I talked about tonight. Like I said, last week, I talked about I'm not okay. This week, I'm talking about whose responsibility is it when I got all these emotional things going on. Yeah, Nikki, I'm smiling tonight. I'm in a better headspace. But I don't know if you ever felt like this, but I have. I wondered why no one ever noticed. Um, I wondered why no one even asked. You know, I wondered why I felt alone in a room full of people. You can be in a room full of people and still feel like you by yourself. Something's going on, right? Something's going on that we need to deal with within ourselves when that happens. So today I'm learning something. And I had to learn that people are not mind readers. Some people want to know some people genuinely want to know what's going on when they ask you, when they see you, right? When they're saying, are you okay? Really? That means I see something and I see something that's a little off, something's not right. You're not yourself. And instead of saying, yeah, can we have lunch today or whatever, you said, no, I'm fine, I'm okay. And you're not. Recognize when God sends someone that you can trust so that you can talk sometimes. And it don't mean that you got to tell all the intricate details and of your business, but there's a part of it that you can share that's really bothering you, right? So listen. Some people do want to know, some people genuinely do want to understand. They really do want to help, you know, but everybody does not have the capacity to help you. You know, they just don't. They want to, but they just really don't. Sometimes the situation might be really heavy, really deep, and they just may not have the capacity to do it. And I do want you to know that it does not mean that you unloved. It has nothing to do with that. It doesn't mean that you unloved. And it doesn't mean that you have to carry everything alone either. You know, let's get out of that because it's killing us on the inside, trying to do everything alone. And so maybe, just maybe, healing begins when we stop expecting people to guess. When we just tell them, and my husband on here, and you probably heard me talking about you, but it's okay. I'm not telling no tale. I'm telling the truth. What I did to you yesterday. Maybe healing begins when we stop expecting people to guess. Communicate, tell people, talk, talk to the one that's really trying to help you, you know, and start giving them the opportunity to know you. Let them know that vulnerable part of you, you know, let them know what really bothers you, that brings you to this place where your emotions are not where you like them to be, right? No one likes it when the emotions are all shaken up. It just does a thing to you. You know what I mean? But there's help, and help is among us, and we have to allow people to help us. Sometimes people just can't get to the core of it, but just remember, everybody doesn't have the capacity. They may have the desire and the willingness, but they just may not have that capacity. So sometimes people fall short, but it's not always intentionally, right? So, like we start off saying, you got to give people grace when they're trying to help you, and don't just shun them so bad that they'll never come to you in that space again, even when they see something. You got to learn, like I said yesterday, just give me 30 minutes. What that was saying was that you're really not giving me what I need, but I don't want to get upset because it's not your fault. But I just need a few more minutes to regroup. I told my husband, just give me 30 minutes of silence, please. And I wasn't being funny. It was just that I was in a space that, and I'm out here and they can't help me, right? Nothing was going to satisfy what I needed. So I just needed that minute to get myself together so that I'm not abusing people that's there to try to help me. It's not their fault that I can't communicate what's going on inside of me. So, okay. So people fall short, but God never falls short. And I want you to know that God sees you. He loves you, right? He's concerned about you. He sends someone to help you. Sometimes he'll just step in and do it himself. But however it happens, just remember that God said, I'll go back to that scripture, I will strengthen you, and he said, I will help you. I thank you all for joining me tonight. I hope I said something that to encourage you along the way. I'll be back next week with whatever God placed upon my heart. If you need me, my number is on the screen. You can always text me, call me, email me, whatever I need to do to help, let me know. And so God bless you. Thank you for listening to me tonight. Thank you for listening to me tonight. And so we're going to go on, and I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of your evening. But who's responsible for supporting me? Who's responsible? Me. Because I got to let people know what I need from them in that moment. And I can't blame them when they don't have what I need. But just rest assured that God said, what did he say? I'll strengthen you and I'll help you. God bless you. I love all of you. Thank you tonight. Good night.